So a firewall, a backup, and a 0-day walk into a bar. So the bartender looks up and says, "We don't serve your kind here." The 0-day smirks and says, "You will," in 3, 2, 1. The firewall tries to block him, and the backup says, "I got this." As long as your backups are offline and you tested them in the last quarter. But, we've got to laugh when we can, right? So, and of course, small businesses, they could completely go out of business if they have an attack like this. So essentially, if the vendor doesn't know and you have a vulnerability, then, that's your 0-day because there's no patch or anything you can do about that, be logged in or anything like that. So you're essentially a sitting duck in this case. So this is where we're at right now for vulnerabilities, and it just seems to keep getting worse. So it's an average of 25% increase year over year. Now, what I want to do is kind of step back a little bit and talk about the shared responsibility model. Platform as a service has a lot of built-in security. So, for example, AWS Lambda does the vulnerability scanning, the patching. You still have to vulnerability scan your own code, but from the OS and below, they do red teaming. So there's a lot of security that's built in. But what I found out is, now you have to do the vulnerability scanning. You're actually responsible for the OS and above. And so pretty quickly, you can get behind, and then, you're going to be spending a lot of time basically patching these vulnerabilities. It's my customer's fault for the misconfiguration. So you need to have a secure development lifecycle. So you need to have a policy. And in following this, that's like at the basic level. But you can also follow the NIST Secure Software Development Framework, and you can document the cybersecurity performance goals. Of course, you've got to have the static analysis testing, and more mature programs will incorporate extensive data-driven. So another thing is having OWASP training for your developers. And finally, having a second person do code approvals. But what I thought was interesting is what the auditors found out is that each developer had multiple accounts and they were approving their own code before it went to production. That's one of the basic security, safeguards that you need to be doing in development. So what you really want is the CEO down, and you actually want these key performance indicators that align with InfoSec. It's for everybody in the company. And where you can see is there was a big hack with Microsoft. I don't know, it was like 2 years ago, but it didn't change anybody's bonus. So if they're really, really serious about security, then it's going to be more just about meeting those deadlines and getting that code out. There's going to be some sort of security KPI that's tied into it. You can be doing everything right and still get hacked. But it's in, it's kind of like in the DNA of the company. And so these companies that say, "Oh yeah, security is important," it's like, okay, well, look at their KPIs and see how important, is it really going to affect those executives' bottom line and their bonuses? Of course, you got to have leadership buy-in. But what they want you to do for the Secure by Design is security-led about backups, because backups are critical. And I heard this one guy who works at CISA, and he said every single ransomware attack where they came, so the segmentation, that's what killed Sony way back, because it was just like one big flat network. And so it just self-propagated. If you ever say anything to anybody about an internal bug, you will be fired. They were doing watermelon reporting is what they call it. So it looked really green, but when you looked in the layers, it wasn't. Build more security into your product that's just there by default, And so your hardening guide gets, isn't as complex, and then eventually flip it around where the product comes super secure, and then you're going to have a loosening guide. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to pick up a copy of my book, A CISO Guide to Cyber Resilience, available on Amazon. And remember to stay cyber resilient.